Guys, welcome back to RBR and to the first drive of the entry-level G-Wagons, and that is the G450 diesel and the all-new G500. These are the cheapest that you can buy in the new generation, both starting at 136k, at least in the UK. And they've seen some huge updates, both inside with the finally updated interior system with the all-new MBUX, which I will show you while we're driving, and huge updates for the actual engine portfolio as well, because now every G is a mild hybrid, which brings a lot of added benefit in terms of performance. But there's a downside. Our beloved G500 that was always a V8 is now an inline 6. Is it still going to tickle us like the old car used to? That is what we're going to try and answer today, at least with the 500, and then see what the 450d drives like as well. So really important if you're considering an entry-level G. So let's dive in and check out both the G500 and the G450d. So guys, today's episode of RBR is proudly sponsored by Nordvpn. Now you guys trust me on cars, trust me on software as well. Let me give you a little advice. Now you guys know all about VPNs. So let's park the VPN bit to the side for a second. Hasn't the internet just become a worse user experience in the last decade? How many times have you searched for something like a car leasing deal for a certain car and it just floods your timeline on all of your social apps because you're being tracked? Nord gets it, and they want to bring the enjoyable, hassle-free, friendly experience of using the internet back, but not necessarily with having your VPN turned on all the time. And that's where this new threat protection feature comes in. You don't need to turn on the VPN, just go to threat protection, turn it on, and it'll stop pesky ads, it'll stop trackers, it'll scan your downloads, and it'll just make using the internet that much better. You turn the VPN on with that, and you've got the ultimate protection for your data. And of course, you know all the benefits of VPN otherwise. Like if you're going abroad, you can set it back to your home country, get your full catalog of content, etc. Of course, it protects your data when you're out and about using internet in weird places where you don't know who set up the Wi-Fi. And there's one more thing. Nord have started a new eSIM service called Facelifts. Now, if you travel a lot like I do, and I know a lot of you guys do as well, this is going to be an absolute lifesaver. Now, that scenario that we've all been in. You arrive in a new country, you want to use your phone, you want to use your data, etc. Where do you get a SIM, etc. The Facelifts eSIM works in 150 different countries. You can choose your eSIM plan on there. It's compatible with both iOS and Android devices, and you can be up and running literally as you arrive. And then when you go to a different country, get a different eSIM plan. You don't need to worry about roaming costs, etc. I think it's going to be brilliant and a game changer for those of us who travel. And for peace of mind, you get 24/7 chat support, and if it doesn't work on your device, you get a full refund, so don't worry about it. Now, of course, as an RBR viewer, you get a great discount. You get 4 extra months only if you use our link, plus up to 20 GB extra on the eSIM plan. So use that link, nordvpn.com/RBR, and Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's a no-brainer. Guys, huge thanks for supporting our regular sponsors like Nord. Let's get back to the car. So guys, our G-Wagons have had a huge update. Though it might not look like it when you just look at the car versus the pre-facelift, there are some massive changes under the skin. And particularly our entry levels, I think, even more relevant than they've ever been in the past, because now we have the existence of the electric G-Wagon, the G580, which everyone is considering as a daily car. Does that make these ones now irrelevant? These are some of the questions that I want you to keep in the forefront of your mind while we're going through these cars, because I really do believe in the entry-level G-Wagon. I think the diesel is fantastic. I think this inline 6 has the potential of being a really good daily as well, and hopefully we get a really good idea of that today. Now guys, let's get on to the bigger topic, which is the engines. How big of a deal is it that the G500 is losing the V8? Is it the end of the world? I'm not convinced, because when they originally brought out the 550GE way back in the 90s, they brought the V8 into the G-Wagon in order to elevate it to a new area of usage, which was like being a style icon, being more of a daily car, being more attractive to the person who's looking for a luxury SUV experience with a load more performance than the G previously offered. Because remember, the G was always more of a utilitarian car. Yes, it was definitely a style icon, but it never quite got to the levels of being, hey, let's get this for like luxury and for like enjoyment and performance. And the GE500 was kind of the car to do that. And I don't think it was all about the power unit, because I drove this car and it drives beautifully. Even today, it's just gorgeous. But the engine note is nothing really to write home about. It's just, it's kind of truck-like, as the G Wagon always is. It's not like the G63 with a really definable engine note. So how important is that engine note? I'm not so convinced. Now, every new G in this new generation is a 48-volt system with a mild hybrid, okay? And that means that we're going to get a boost of 20 horsepower and 200 Newton meters from it. What does that mean versus our previous G500? The old one had the detuned 4-litre V8 making 422 brake horsepower. We had a significant amount of torque still and a 0 to 60 of 5.9 seconds. Our new 6-cylinder unit, however, is actually more powerful, 449 brake horsepower, and though the torque dips to 560 because you have the massive boost from the ISG of 200 Newton meters and the 20 horsepower, it becomes even more powerful. Hence why our 0 to 60 has then improved to 5.4 seconds, which again, it's really quite significant. What is the real question is, does it still tickle us when we're driving? And we're going to see that in a minute. Now let's move on to the diesel, the G450d, which again updated versus the old G400. Now a G400 of old made 325 brake horsepower, 700 Newton meters and a 0 to 60 of 6.4 seconds. Our new one, the G450d, much more powerful. We've got 367 brake horsepower, 750 Newton meters. Then you get the boost of the mild hybrid system on top of that, hence why the 0 to 60 has improved to 5.8 seconds. Again, really, really good for this entry-level car. Now, this car starts at 136,000 in the UK, which again, it's good value for money. Yes, it's gone up, as all new cars have, by the tune of around about 10-15% versus the previous model. But it's still good value for money for a G, I think. And then the G500 is a stage above, starting at 146 odd thousand pounds. Again, versus our electric G-Wagon, potentially quite good value, I think, there. So yeah, keep these things in your head. Now, we need to go for a drive. First of all, let's have a look at what's changed in this new 465 generation of G. We're gonna have a super fast run through of all the changes. So guys, let's start with the design, okay? So the front end has had, like I said, some light massaging. And if you know G well, you might be able to spot it just about. There's not a huge amount different. It is essentially our lower front here that's got a different shape, and we've got these new inserts which are in these kind of, I think they're kind of G-Wagon logo shapes almost, but like without the G, it's that kind of shape. And I guess it's like this element, but just like multiplied. So it's like their off-roady design feature on here. So that is kind of the new look of the standard G, and of course the electric one gets that as well. Then we have the new grille, which I absolutely love. It's just so retro, and I love the fact that it has this kind of, these cuts that go along the side and then back in. You can't see it as well in this black one. It's more visible in the silver grille, but still pretty nice. When you step back, it's just really standard G-Wagon as it's always been, which it should be as well. The next change is the A-pillar and the spoiler up here, which makes the aerodynamics better and makes less noise for us inside the cabin. And then a big change for G-Wagon is keyless locking and keyless unlocking for the first time in the G-Wagon. And then, look, we've also got the G logo within the handles here. That's part of a package. But we still have the ka-chunk of the doors. Of course, you've got all new choice of wheels as well. This one I'm not too crazy about, but you do have a ton of other choices. This is kind of, it feels like it's almost part aero, and the matte black does a good job of covering the fact that it's quite ugly. But I'll show you some other finishes that are actually really, really quite nice. So you have a good choice as usual for wheel finishes on the G. Nothing too different on the rear. We've got a new camera placement here, but all of this is the same. The lights are the same. There is something cool inside though. Come have a look at this. I showed you guys this last time. Someone guessed it right and got a prize. This is a new finish that you can get in the manufacturer program, which is a beautiful wood finish inspired by boats, yachts, etc. And this is part of the manufacturer program. Again, in a car like this that's going for that classier spec, looks really, really good in my opinion. So one of you guessed right that was inspired by the CLS shooting brake, and I think suits the G's character much more. So on a classy spec like this, something to really consider in the manufacturer program. Then the other big change, of course, is the interior. Got a nice new G welcome screen. And now, of course, the all-new MBUX system, which we've been absolutely gagging for as G customers because the old one was so dated. So this is just like you'd find in S-Class, in all the brand new electric cars, in all the top AMG cars. It's the absolutely up-to-date system. So G-Wagon not behind in any way.
And of course, this is now a touchscreen as well as being able to control it from trackpad, which is great. So of course, as a G, you've still got things like massaging, which is great. But you also now have the extended ambient lighting, for example, that the G didn't have before. It's in more places than it was before. For example, within our vents here, which is really, really cool. We've got energizing comfort. And more important than that, we've got access to all the apps that the modern Mercedes cars have. So, like I said, G-Wagon not behind in any way. In fact, we've gone a stage ahead for off-roading as well, because now we've got the new off-roading center. And it's not just on that central display, it's also on our driver zone. So when we go off-roading with this thing, you've got so much more information available to you as the driver, thanks to this off-roading mode. Your diff locks all remain the same, and what's nice is we also have a new system called the invisible bonnet that I've shown you in some Mercedes cars before. You tap this button here, and you'll begin to see as we drive forward that the car will show us what is underneath the bonnet. And again, this is all about off-roading and making off-roading safer, making decisions while doing off-roading safer as well. So yeah, the G has to be at the top of it, and it is in this version. In addition to that, of course, you can't ignore the fact that in MBUX you get so many new designs, which again, the G customers have been absolutely gagging for a bit more technology in their cars. And speaking of which, you also have things like active steering assist that hopefully we'll get to see later as well. So lots of updates. We also got simple things like a new wireless charging pad, USB-Cs, we've got heated and cooled cup holding in here, which is great. This section has been all redesigned as well and is lighter and more modern looking, but still maintaining some nice buttons, which is great. And then there's little things that bring big value, for example, Dolby Atmos, which I cannot explain how amazing it is in a car like this. It's just like you're listening to your favorite songs for the first time, so huge, huge benefit. So yeah, massive upgrade inside without changing that iconic look of the G. The structure, pretty much exactly the same as we find in the classics, which I love about this car. Just like the outside, the inside is maintained. Now, we need to go for a drive. Let's see, first of all, with the G500, what this drive's like, and then we'll check out the diesel. So here we are, guys, new G500, inline 6. This is nice. This is so bizarre seeing MBUX here in this traditionally just normal looking G-Wagon interior, and I'm here for it because it's been such a long time coming and we've been so deprived of any modern technologies. Because remember, even when the G got it, that was still kind of like an old system, that NTG, I think it was 7.5 or whatever it was called. Ancient, barely had CarPlay working on it. So this is a really welcome addition. I'm using the sports display, like I can just chuck it straight over to classic in a single swipe. It's brilliant. As for the engine, feels commensurately responsive already. The mild hybrids are so good, aren't they? That little boost that you get right at the start before your turbo spool, unbelievable the amount of difference it makes. And the G always used to have like a bit of a hesitation in all of its versions, and that's eradicated thanks to this mild hybrid. Like, you tap the power and you get immediate response. The first impressions of the engine are really, really good actually. Very responsive. I'm just in comfort mode at the moment as well, remember, so it's going to be a bit more relaxed than if we put things into sport. Like I said as well, previous G500s, they did of course sound quite nice, quite deep, quite truck-like, as I like to say with G, but I don't think like the engine note was any particular highlight. It kind of sat in the background. It wasn't anything that you would shout home about, not like the G63 certainly. So happily though, you put the car into sport, the engine note becomes more pronounced, a lot deeper, engine response is better, sounds like a different car, feels like a different car, which is nice. The modern suspension and the steering of the new G is so much better. You look at the footage of me driving the original 500 GE and the way that you've got so much body roll. There is body roll in this. It's nothing like the G63 Performance, but nowhere near like that car. And the steering is just how you would normally steer a normal Mercedes-Benz. And of course that's true of the pre-facelift as well, but it's always nice to point out how big of a jump we made from the classic G-Wagons to the 463 and this now the 465. Back to engine, it sounds good, it sounds really deep in sport. I like sport mode because it's really different enough to comfort that it feels like a different car. Now the big benefit of going to this new age of G-Wagon is this whole interior thing, but not just that, it's the addition of more technology. For example, steering assist, or basically self-driving, which is finally in G, because we now have a camera up here at the top that allows you to do it. So one tap here and I can let go of the steering wheel. Finally in the G-Wagon, it will drive itself on roads, which I love, because this is the reason that I began to love the G-Wagon even more, is what a comfortable car it is, how you can just kind of sit back, you've got your wonderful high seating position, comfortable suspension, ease of steering, lovely interior. The thing that was missing for me, tapping this button here, seeing the green steering icon there and just letting go. This is what I needed to top off that luxury driving experience, and now the G has it. Now it will steer, feel, do. You guys are used to driving assistance package, and it's just the cherry on top for me now. And I love it. I've been waiting so long for it, and it's perfect. It works just like all your other Mercedes cars, like S-Class, E-Class, etc. And that's great. So this is one of the things that would really pull me towards this generation of car, particularly as a daily, because these cars with the mild hybrid, a little bit better on consumption, etc. This car, maximum you're going to hit something like 30 mpg. I think it's going to average around about 25. Our G450 is a lot better in that regard, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But as daily propositions with the added technology, MBUX, you know, your interior system now is actually usable rather than being redundant. All of this is really going to count towards someone who's thinking, I want to plunk a load of money down on a G-Wagon. It's interesting, it's a really windy day, and I can hear the wind hitting the A-pillar, but it's nowhere as much as I was used to in my G63, so whatever they've done up here is definitely doing the job. It's just quieter. I'm sure you guys can perceive it from there as well. It's just a quieter experience, and that's good, because this is not a very aerodynamic car, and it never will be. At least we hope it never will be. Let's keep the boxy shape, please. Not everything needs to be 0.22 CD. But this is great, because you've got kind of the best of both worlds. It's quieter, a bit more technology, and a really nice engine as well. Of course, the other great thing is we've got the MBUX interior assistant, so you can do things like, hey Mercedes, give me a massage.
I'm switching on the massage for you.
So things like this, where previously you had to dive actually really deep into the G-Wagon systems to access the massaging, and even now if you went through the touchscreen it would take ages. Now the interior system is always listening, so you can continue talking to it. So, hey Mercedes, change the ambient lighting to blue.
Okay, I'm changing the colour.
And this is great. Again, keeps your focus on driving, the system's more reliable, it's less of a headache to be messing around here, and you can just concentrate on enjoying the drive of this car. And it's a really enjoyable drive. It's a proper, it's more of a luxury car than it's ever been, which I know we're talking about an off-roader, and the commentators will be like, oh, it's an off-road car and you should be using the differentials, but at the end of the day, this is a design icon. Yes, it can do all the off-roading thing, and in fact, you go into the dynamic select here, and it's got every single off-roading mode, just like the G63s, just like every other G-Wagon. You know, it's off-road ready. It's got all the same wading depth, etc. But it's going to do what 99% of people want, and that is give a really luxurious Mercedes-Benz SUV experience in a unique classic shape and a unique drive. In fact, the way you drive G-Wagon is just unique, and that's not changed here in this generation. All right guys, cards on the table. We've been stuck in traffic now for like 1.5 hours trying to get to this destination that we were originally arriving at around about 11:30, and now we're getting there close to 1 p.m. So this nonsense happens on press trips as well. The silver lining about this is that with now the active steering plus the self-drive element, I haven't had to really do anything in this standstill traffic, so the car kind of stops and goes, it turns. Yes, I need to grab the steering wheel every now and then, but really it's kind of doing the work for me, so I'm just sitting in this fairly comfortable chair waiting to get to another hub with lots more G-Wagons to review. So not bad. Like I said, this was that missing link with the driving assistance where the steering element, etc., the car can now finally do itself. So yeah, very good. Now of course a big part of this video today is how is this engine versus the V8. Now I'd love to sit here and sing its praises in totality, but a V8 is a V8, and we know Mercedes is 6 cylinders quite well. It's a good engine. It's a good engine, the M256. There's no doubt about that. The little hybrid operation gives you immediate response. It's pleasing in terms of its sound as well. But the V8 was the V8. You know, there was a certain joy of driving that car slow that, thanks to the fact that we just sat in a load of traffic, made me kind of miss that engine a little bit, because there was a certain joy of driving that. The low revs, the low end power delivery of the V8 was just spectacular. This is a good engine, but it's just not quite to the level of that in terms of pure pleasure. What it is though is bloody fast and bloody efficient. Particularly, I think you negate some of that difference between the 6-cylinder and the V8 when you go into sport mode, where it sounds and performs just a lot better. It's undoubtedly more responsive. It feels very, very quick. We know that it is in reality actually quicker as well. But in a car like the G500, what is the purpose of the power unit? Well, it's got to be powerful, because it's a G500, which this is. It's very powerful. It makes the car feel very fast, as we said, quicker than the previous one. It's got to be refined as well, which that whole hybrid element really helps, like particularly in low speeds, giving you the push when you need it. And it sounds, when you put it into comfort, nice and luxurious. You know, it kind of sits in the background as you would expect of a luxury car. So in that sense, I think it is a good step forward. Yes, in terms of emotion, you're losing out in terms of the V8, but there's so many V8 G-Wagons that you can choose from the past that are, as far as driving goes, as good as this car. Or if you really want to get the proper emotional experience, you go to the AMG, and I think that's a good compromise to make now. The question now is, what is the diesel like in comparison to this? And I think a very short drive will show how good that car is as an alternate. So guys, we are now in the full diesel 450d. Now you guys probably don't know this because we've not had enough diesel videos, but I'm a massive, massive fan of diesels. And RBR kind of started at that diesel downturn in the industry where everyone was running away from them. But I believe in the engine, I believe in the efficiency of it, I believe in the technology still, particularly the newer ones. You know, the miles per gallon you get, the torque that you get out of these engines, the torque is so much more in this G450d, and it sounds, dare I say, more refined. I prefer the power delivery in this as well, where, I don't know, it doesn't seem as strained, and in fact it doesn't sound as strained either versus the 6-cylinder, which is strange. And look, I'm here for it. I absolutely love diesels. This car is £10,000 cheaper than the 6-cylinder, and I think it's going to do 99% of the job. In fact, the MPG is like 10 MPG better, so like you can achieve 35, 38 maximum, I think it was, which is bloody impressive for a tank this size. Looking at the range in front of me, it is giving an estimate on 3/4 full what the other car was, the 6-cylinder, on a full tank. So, and then the torque and the power, I don't know, you can't beat the diesel. For me, I just think it's brilliant. Save a bit of money, be a bit of a rebel, you got better MPG, exact same use case in my opinion, marginally slower maybe, doesn't feel it because the torque is better. I don't know, I absolutely love it. The question for me is less, is the V8 going a bad thing and is the 6-cylinder going better? No, I'm like, why aren't we talking about the diesel? Obviously handling, everything else technically is the same on the diesel as well. So yeah, that's my opinion. Might be a controversial one, I don't know. I know a lot of other journalists agree with me, so maybe I'm not alone. Diesel is the way, G450d, but if you really want a petrol hybrid, let's get back to the G500. I think the one thing that really endears me to G-Wagon is that the way you sit in it and the way you drive it, it's just different. You kind of just, you're super chilled out. You're loving the fact that you're sitting in this high, awesome looking SUV. Now in this new generation, barely much input needed in keeping the car straight and narrow. If and when the time comes, you know that it can handle any type of terrain, and it just gives you a confidence in driving that you just don't have in other cars. And I love that aspect of it. You feel like you're also stronger than time, just like this car is, and no other car that I can think of in the world gives you that feeling, and I think that's why we all love it. So guys, that was our first drive of the G500 and the G450d. If you've enjoyed it and it was useful for you, please do like and subscribe to RBR. As always, it's hugely, hugely appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time.